Reading is a discipline like anything else, and you need baby steps to get there. And it is hard. And if you don't enjoy it in the very beginning, then you will hate it the rest of your life. You know, how many, I'm sure Mark Twain would turn over in his grave if he knew he turned so many people off to reading. Hey, pubescent teenage boy who would much rather play video games, here's Huckleberry Finn. Thunk. Go write me a book report. Being dyslexic, I couldn't read. Forget not wanting to read, I couldn't. I hated it. And I finally got into comic books. And while the subject matter wasn't nearly as amazing as Capstone's graphic novel series, it got me used to the discipline of reading words. And so then I worked my way up. That's why I wanted to put the Harlem Hellfighters in a graphic novel. Because I don't agree with graphic novel versions of fiction. Because I do think it is important to see how a writer writes, to see how Hunter S. Thompson writes differently than Hemingway. You know, let's have a shot of whiskey and shoot an animal that doesn't have a gun. Yay. But when it comes to history, it's about the facts. It's about learning it. Who cares how we learn it? We have to learn it, especially in this country. You know, in this country, history to us is printed ambient. Nobody cares about history in this country. We think that history is what happened 3 weeks ago. And yet history is so important for all of us. Amen. Amen. I, who hated history as a kid, now love it. Because now it makes me understand the world we live in now. When I was 11 years old, there was a young man working for my parents, and he told me about the Harlem Hellfighters. He said there was a group of African-American soldiers in the First World War that were abused and humiliated and sabotaged by their own government, and then were given to the French army as a throwaway. And despite all of that, came home as the most decorated unit in the whole US Army? What, really? That shocked me, and I stayed with the story, and I never forgot it. And when I was actually in college in the US Virgin Islands, I had this amazing professor from we call it the mainland, because they're all Americans down there. His name was Dr. Wayne Edge. And Dr. Wayne Edge, with his dashiki and his beard and his glasses and his French, he literally talked like this. What he said to me never left me, because he said the worst crime that the system committed against my people was burying our history. He said, because by burying our past, it robbed us of the confidence to face the future. And that resounded with me, because growing up Jewish, half our holidays are about reminding us what we've gone through. So then when we face the future, we go, okay, we've been in tougher straits than this. You know, that's what you do. But if you take any group of people and you bury their history, how does that give them any grounding? And here's the kicker. I went to him and I said to him, what about the Harlem Hellfighters? And he said, who are they? It was the Harlem Hellfighters, the black soldiers in World War I. He said, there were no black soldiers in World War I. What? He said, you're thinking of the Tuskegee Airmen in World War II. I was like, no, the Harlem Hellfighters. No. Everyone I asked had never heard of this story. And the more I had doors shut, the more I wanted to learn about it. And then flash forward a few years in the 1990s. I don't know if you guys remember when Danny Glover did the Buffalo Soldiers for TNT? It was a great story. And then remember the first Tuskegee Airmen? Remember the one, Cuba Gooding Jr. and Lawrence Fishburne? That was awesome, by the way. I thought now's the time to tell the story of the Hellfighters. So I wrote it as a movie script. I brought it all over town. Nobody wanted to do it. Because back then the economics of Hollywood were, oh, there's not enough bankable African-American stars to make this a profitable movie. So I was about to give up. I was about to shove it in a drawer and just say, because you know, when you're young, your instinct is to blame yourself. When you're young and you think, well, it's because I'm doing a bad job. I had one more meeting. My last meeting was with LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton said to me, there's a lot of Harlem Hellfighters scripts going around Hollywood right now. Yours comes closest to the truth. When you're dyslexic and you have to work twice as hard to do half as well, and Commander Geordi LaForge from Star Trek tells you, you've done your homework, you don't give up. So I stayed with it. And then when I got into comic books, I found this amazing, wonderful way to tell a visual story, because this is a visual story. Let's not forget, this is about skin color. This is about what people see. Because you can't do it as a regular novel, because you don't want the reader to ever forget what color these guys were, because they weren't allowed to forget. But comic books allowed me to tell a visual story without the economics of Hollywood. Because Kanan White is one of the most brilliant artists in the world. He can draw one soldier, he can draw 100 soldiers. Doesn't matter, costs him the same. So we went to work on this. And it took us years, and we slaved. And God bless Megan, she's very kind. Because she took a lot of flack from me. I was crazy and angry all the time and frustrated and detail-oriented. When the galley copies came out, poor Megan. When the galley copies came out, the uncorrected proofs, you know, the uncorrected proofs, you turn them out, people read it, they blurb it. I looked at the last page of the Hellfighters marching triumphantly home. They were white. We had accidentally put the wrong picture on it. And I was like, Megan! We have to pull them. She's like, we can't. There's a warehouse of 5,000 books. They're going out. So literally, Random House, God bless them, like went to Staples and printed out these stickers that said "Art Not Complete" and stuck them on every single one before they went out. That's how passionate I am about this. That's why I won't give up, because this is America's best kept secret. The best kept secret in the country is this. The worst thing that was done to the Harlem Hellfighters, the worst, was not that they were given poor uniforms, was not that they had to write to their own government for rifles, was not that they were sent to Spartanburg, South Carolina, hoping there would be a race riot so then they wouldn't be sent over, was not that they were made to do manual labor instead of being put in combat, was not that they were given to the French army instead of the American army, and was not that once they became heroes, the US Army sent a memorandum to the French army that literally said, here's how to treat them like dirt. No. The worst thing that happened to the Harlem Hellfighters was not during the war, it was after the war, when the US government intentionally buried them. Because that is the worst thing you can do to a soldier, is not kill, capture, or torture. The worst thing you can do to any soldier is to forget them. And there was a concerted effort after World War I to bury this memory. Because the last thing they wanted, the last thing the status quo wanted, was this group of heroes inspiring other people. Had the Harlem Hellfighters been a white unit, there'd be a statue of them in every street corner in every major city in this country. Gary Cooper, instead of playing Sergeant York, would have played Henry Johnson. You know, the US Army has this great tradition of naming things, weapons, and bases after its heroes. Had these units been white, there'd be Camp Henry Johnson. Had this unit been white, James Cagney wouldn't have made the Fighting 69th, he would have made the Fighting 369th. Had this unit been white, they would be as embedded in our national culture as any other unit, as the Texas Rangers, as the Buffalo Soldiers. Everyone would know the Harlem Hellfighters. So for me, this is more than just another book. I can write another book. I can make money. I can make movies. I can make speeches. For me, this is passion. That's why I did it, and that's why I'm going to keep doing it. I'm not going to forget about this book. That's why, if you see on my website, any classroom that adopts it as a teaching tool, I will Skype in and answer their questions. That's why I went up to Harlem. I talked to his kids. I talked to other high schools. That's why I'm going to keep going to colleges, because when I die, I want everyone to say, oh yeah, Harlem Hellfighters? Pfft, who hasn't heard of them?